Hi everyone, this is Brita Wind Dinsmore, and I'm here again for Ask a Witch. And today's topic is animal magic and animal spirit guides. And I'm going to talk about a lot of different topics in association with how animals are incorporated into our magical practice and why we include them. The first thing that I want to say is that in shamanic practices, such as Wicca or Asatru or any of those magical practices, nature is not viewed as less than or soulless or any of those kinds of things. Nature is another way of being than humans. In other words, animals like an elk is its own way of being. A human is its own way of being. A tree is its own way of being. And none of those ways of being are viewed as inferior or less than humans. Humans are just another one of the many animals that are in nature. We like to think that we're the only ones that are sentient, but we also know, if we really think about it, that that's not true. Certainly there are animals that we recognize as being very, very intelligent and very much sentient, but most people don't really think of sentience as consciousness, and consciousness is really what makes an animal sentient. So consciousness is a way of interacting or working within the framework that is the world that you are in, intelligently responding to stimulus or situations that happen. There are anthropologists and people like Joseph Campbell who have said that consciousness can even be found in the way a leaf follows the sunlight, its response to where the sun is and how it changes its position in the course of a day, or a sunflower, that's a form of consciousness. So if we think of all animals and plants and natural objects such as mountains and rivers and rocks as conscious of us, then it changes the landscape of how we interact with the world. There are a lot of views of how different a children of nature culture is, or a shamanic nature-centered religion is, from a power over or industrialized culture. In industrialized cultures, we view everything around us as things. Dogs are things, trees are things, mountains are things. And we view them as things that are for our use or for our disposal. But in Wicca and in shamanic practices, we view them as part of our community, our brothers and sisters, our advisors, our elders. And so, coming from that place, when we think of animal magic and animal spirit guides, what we are looking at is working with the consciousness, working with the focus of that animal's interaction with nature. For example, if we identify with a cat, for example, cats are probably, if cats, bigger cats especially, but if house cats were as big as lions, we wouldn't be keeping them as pets. They're all weapon. They are an energy of being able to be the hunter, being smart and cunning, and all of the things that we think of that are associated with cat-like behavior makes that energy something that we can relate to and embody and use as we go through life. There are certainly animals that are part of the way we experience life. And so I'm going to back up just a second and talk a moment about my own experiences with animal energies and animal spirit guides. First off, if you have an animal spirit guide, it's going to let you know You'll find out by having it show up a lot in your life, or try to bite you, or try to kill you, or try to live with you, even if it's a wild animal. So my experience has been with bears. And I had always had a great affection and connection with bears. I was the whole mama bear thing and all that. But it was never as strong as it was when I moved up to a place called Camp Nelson, where bears were all over the place. And I had some face-to-face experiences with bears. Now, interestingly enough, as I moved up there, a friend had given me a bear claw from a rug that he had found at a thrift store, and it still had the claws in it, so he took them out and gave them to various friends and kept some of them, and I have a bear claw. So I took that with me, and we moved up into the mountains. And we had a situation where this bear would come in and try to steal dog food every night. And the bears were always trying to get into the garbage. You had to lock up your garbage because they were always trying to get into your garbage. And they were always on the porch, or always in the garden, or always somewhere around there. And I got used to seeing them. But I also felt a really strong affinity towards them. And one night I had a dream that there was a bear in my circle, and the bear was dancing in my circle, and I was the bear, and I was dancing in my circle as a bear. And it was really an intense dream. And then when I went out in the morning to look at my circle, it had snowed that night. There were bear prints in the circle, so the bear had visited close by while I was sleeping, and that was a really intense link that I had with the bear that day. I also had another experience, and I almost felt like I kind of was taken over by the spirit of bear. One evening I walked down to the little the one room that was everything in Camp Nelson. It was a grocery store, the real estate office, the DVD store, and a restaurant and bar. And my husband and I decided we were going to go down and have a drink. So I go down to the little bar, and with my husband, and we're sitting there, and there's these two men who are talking about bear hunting. And this one man says that he really, really wants to kill a bear. And his friend says, well, why do you want to kill a bear? And he says, well, because they're, it's a big deal to kill a bear. It's a real powerful, manly sort of thing to kill a bear. And, and he said, well, I don't know, I don't know if I really relate to that, but he says, I just can't, the other guy says, well, I can't find any bears. I've been all over the place and I can't find any bears. And I started laughing because the bears were always on my porch every night eating my cat food and dog food. And I said, well, my husband, of course, was like, oh, I said, well, maybe the bears don't think you're worthy. To which he responded, what do you mean? I'm a man. I'm worthy of killing a bear. And I said, well, that might be your problem, that being a man is contingent on whether or not you kill some animal that's more spiritually powerful than you are. My husband by that time was like, it's time to go, honey. It's time to go. And I'm like, you would see a bear if you were meant to take a bear. I see bears every day. And he said, well, where do you see them? I said, I'm not telling you. And I left. And I've always had, since that time, a really close connection with bear. Bear is one of the first and one of the creator animals in the Navajo tradition. It's one of the animals that actually sang the universe into existence and in the creation story. And so it's a wonderful animal to be allied with, and powerful and strong, but also kind of goofy. I mean, there's some goofiness that goes with bear as well. But animals becoming a bear in a sleep state, in a dream state, it helped me understand bear better than I had before. And I think that one of the reasons why we connect with certain animals, people who are dog people, or people who are cat people, or people who are whatever, giraffe people, they connect with the way that animal walks life. Dogs walk life with just pure love and pure loyalty and pure forgiveness and in the moment, be here nowness. And that's something that's really beautiful and admirable, and something that I think is lacking a lot in the human society. And so, that could be one of the reasons why some people connect with that animal the way they do. Cats, independent, don't really care about a lot of things. My cats, I never kid myself that my cats, except, Phantom, I think actually loves me. But Tucker, I'm not sure really loves me. I think Tucker just likes to sit in my lap when it's cold. I'm just a body warmer for him. But cats are very aloof, but they're also very intelligent. And did you know that cats only talk to humans? They don't really talk to each other. They learn to interact with humans in a vocal way. They might purr when they're near each other and sometimes make small sounds, but they don't meow at other cats in the way that they meow at humans. They have adopted a behavior to interact with us because they view us as an ally. And that brings me to the next thing, is that an animal, just like a plant, can be your ally. We think about what plants do and what energies plants have. Well, animals certainly have energies too. And so those energies, those plant energies and animal energies, can be incorporated into your beingness. They can be incorporated into the way you interact in the world. They can be used to bring certain kinds of magic into being. There's a lot of places to look for information on spirit beings, animal spirits, animal guides. I can tell you that lots of indigenous cultures incorporate animals. Native American cultures all have animal relationships. I've had more than one Native person tell me, well, if an animal crosses your path, it's not by accident. They're there to teach you something, and you should pay attention. Some animals are considered so powerful that they can off-balance you. So like owls or vultures, things like that, and eagles are so powerful that they can actually make you sick because they put you off your homeostasis, off balance, because they're so powerful. And so these are messengers of information and also energies that one can work with. In the old days, I think shamans dressed up as animals and did dances as animals. I know in the Salish tradition here, they dance as animals at powwows and potlatches, and they do so to become the gods or the keepers of those animals. I know Raven is considered a god or a creator being, and so when you dance Raven, you don't just pretend to be Raven, you become that, you embody that energy of the god that is the trickster Raven. And so that energy is a huge part of how we interact with nature and how we interact with ourselves and how we interact with magical currents as we are doing things in the world. Now there's books that one can use. I have one here called Animal Speaks. This is a great book. It has a lot of information about animals. There are also some animal decks too that have some pretty great information on what animal energies are. Animals can be used sort of like a divinatory messenger. Like if an eagle flies in front of your path, that could be a message to you, something that you should pay attention to. So animal energies are a part of that, paying attention, being conscious, being here now sort of orientation to living in nature, living within the fold of the energy that is, Gaia. So this book is a great one. It has lots of information about how animal magic has been used, past and present, how cultures in the world have interacted with animals, things like how hunting magic has been done, and how animal spirit guides can be a part of your life and how to call them, things like that. So it's a really great book. The other thing is I have a deck of tarot cards that I use. And this one here is like a Celtic shaman's deck. It's called the Shapeshifter deck. And it has animals all in all the cards. Like this one here, you can see has like reindeer on it. And it has some mythical animals too, like this sort of phoenix-like figure here. So there's lots and lots of places that you can go. Native American lore is full of information about what animals represent and what their energies are. And I think that in children of nature cultures, or cultures where animals and humans are not considered to be on different levels, where animals are considered equal to humans, I think animals become a part of how a person can identify with others, like shape-shifting magic. There's a lot of shamanic lore about shape-shifting magic. And shape-shifting magic, you can't shape-shift into an eagle if you don't know what it's like to be an eagle. Or if you haven't studied what eagle's message is, or you haven't observed an eagle, you don't really know what an eagle is like. You can't become that. You can't embody that. You can't travel alongside the mind of the eagle in the air if you don't understand it. And so in shapeshifting magic, there's different ideas about how this works. Some shamans have said that the consciousness of a person is within the consciousness of the animal and travels along with it, which, is a wonderful kind of thing. And I think one of the things that my own experience with that sort of thing is I've always been an empath. So being an empath means that I can connect with the consciousness of an animal. I've never tried to take that energy or that gift and travel with an animal, but when an animal comes to me and is sitting in my lap or is next to me or near me, I can feel some of what it feels. I feel its emotions, I feel its impressions, and I know that they are intelligent, and I know that they are conscious of us, and they know when we will hurt them, and they know when we won't. And so in that respect, I can relate to that sort of shape-shifting. There is also mythology that humans can shape-shift into animals, and I think that idea comes a lot from hallucinogenic trance and from trance type work. And that doesn't make it invalid. Hallucinogenic trance is every bit as valid as any other kind of trance. It's just a different way of going about it. And actually, in some ways, breaks down the barriers that make us think that we can't do certain things. Like if we can break down the barriers that tell us that, no, there's no way we can shapeshift into an eagle, or there's no way we can travel with its mind, and we just do it because we don't have those limits anymore, then, I think it can be a really valuable tool for transformation. Now, one of the things that I have done, I have found that animals come to me, the animals that I have the closest relationships with are bear, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. I also have a close relationship with snakes, and I had a snake living with me for about 10 years. Her name was Artemis, and she was a California king snake. And she lived to be pretty old. I think she was about 15 or so. For a captive snake, that's pretty good. I won't have a snake as a pet again, just because I know, because she would connect with me and say, I would like a mouse, or I would like something. And I could hear her in my mind. And so I know she wasn't as happy as she could be. She did connect with me, and she was a wonderful pet. I kept her in my bedroom because her energy was so calming and relaxing. Like, some animals just emit waves, I think, that are calming to humans, and snakes are one of those for me. I do miss having a snake in my bedroom, but at the same time, I feel like snakes are so wild. My experience of her was that she was so wild and so ancient that it was really, even if she didn't know what it was like to be free, she'd never been free. It didn't matter, because she shouldn't be a captive animal. And so one of my totem animals has always been snake, and snake is one of those animals that's connected with goddess. It's no mistake that they use the snake in Genesis, in the Bible, to become Satan, because they're trying to disparage the earlier goddess religions, and the symbol of those religions was snake. So I've always had a pretty strong connection with snake. I'm more of a cat person than a dog person, but I do love my two dogs. I love them as I love children. They're like little kids. They're very innocent and sweet. They can be devious. They love me unconditionally. And there's something to be said for that. It's something very sweet. It sort of takes you out of, your ideas of what people are thinking of you, or worrying about, what people are thinking about you, and just absorbing that love. A dog is all about love. So those are animals that I have a close relationship with. I love bats. And bats, there's almost always bats everywhere I live. I've had that, every place I've lived in the last 20 years, there's been bats. They like the shingles on the house here, so I have bats here and had bats in Lincoln that were always there. Owls are always close to me. I've had them fly over my circle, land in my circle, hang out on my roof and watch me. And eagles. I've always had eagles. Even in Lincoln, we had a bald eagle that hunted our ducks and ate one in my front yard. So eagles and golden eagles and bald eagles. And they're a powerful bird, a powerful energy. So one of the things that you can do to find out what your animal spirit guide is you could do a meditation and just go in your mind's eye out into a natural setting, see what your mind serves up in terms of a natural setting, and go there and look around and see who's there. And you'll find that there are animals and plants that will come to you and will be interested in you. They may try to talk to you. They may try to bite you. It's difficult to say what they're, it depends on how conscious you are. And how willing you are to accept them, how they usually will interact with you. For me, my strongest associations, I would say, spirit guide-wise, is plants. And I know people have a hard time understanding that because a plant, they think of a plant as a stationary being. But I can tell you from my own experience that plants are not stationary beings. The spiritual aspect of them travels freely in and out of the body. The body of the plant is stationary, but the plant's spirit is not. And I think that is one of the things that's given rise to mythologies about fairies. I've had tree spirits follow me hundreds of miles in travel. I've had plants come, like belladonna is a plant that comes up everywhere I live. And even here in the Pacific Northwest, I didn't have any belladonna here last year when I moved here. I looked all over the property, didn't find any. This year there's belladonna right by my front step. So plants will link with you and then follow you around as well. And so they always have something to teach you. There's a reason why they're present in your space. They're coming to talk to you, to be a part of your life, to instruct you, to get you to come out of your own box of experience that you think is reality and help to broaden your concepts of reality, your concepts of nature, your concepts of spiritual interaction. And so animal spirits and plant spirits are wonderful things. I have always been a nature person, so I have all kinds of animal things around my house because of that. I have antlers and a bear claw and feathers of various animals and deer toes and things of that nature. On my altar, I have a petrified, what are these called? Nautilus. It's actually a whole one that's been sliced, which is pretty cool. So animals have always been a big part of my orientation to life. I have a student that gave me a disc from a spine of a whale that's like 20,000 years old. I have lots of things of that nature, and it's because I think because people feel that connection that I have with animals. I had a really wonderful priest make me an athame that's made, the handle's a deer foot, from a deer that was hit by a car and killed. I have a turkey feather fan that was made by the same man from one of the wings after the turkey had been hunted for a holiday meal. And so he took the wings and made them into two fans and gave one to me and one to another friend of mine who always worked together at that time in magic. So what I would recommend if you really want to learn about animal magic is do some reading, get yourself some animal cards. That's helpful. And animal cards, pull a card once a week or something and then study what animal comes up, take a look and see what animal you get and what kind of energies the books say that animal has, and what kind of message the animal might be bringing you. I do know that in traditional cultures, shaman, if an animal crossed his path, would assume it was a message. And so thinking about that in a magical sense, thinking about magic interacting with or interweaving with nature, of course you're going to have connections with animals and plants. And the next step then becomes being connected with, other beings in your environment, trees and rocks and mountains. I have a strong connection here to Mount Rainier. It's one of the reasons why I don't want to move too far away from it. There are other volcanoes, of course, in Washington. Well, Washington is very much a part of the Cascade Range. There's a bunch of volcanoes. But Rainier is just the one that connects, I feel connected to right now. And I feel like she, in her native name, Tahoma, I feel like she has things to teach me. And so I want to be able to see her, and I want to find a place where I can see her every day, because seeing her every day for a year has been really instructive for me. So nature spirits are an important part of being a nature witch. Like I said before, if you're going to be doing magic, you want to work with energies that are around you, the moon energies, what phase is it in, the solar energies, the animal energies, the plant energies, the natural, river energies, flowing water energies, ocean energies, all those kind of things help to make your magic stronger. And so, I encourage you to do some reading and some magical working, and see what you come up with, because I think that there's a lot that you can learn from working with animals. So that's my talk for tonight. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer. I do want to continue to encourage you to go on over to Patreon. We're up to 8 members now, which is great. And I have a member in the fairy court now, which means I'm going to start doing meditations for different Sabbats, which I'll be doing for that patron, but also releasing later for the rest of you to enjoy. That'll be after the Sabbat, but still I think they'll be helpful. So I did get a question here, or a statement from Carrie. I'm often visited by animals in my meditation, so are those my spirit guides? They aren't always the same animal. Yes, I would say, animals come to you for a reason. And so if you're dreaming about animals, especially the ones you dream about a lot, but there are different animals come into your consciousness at different times when you're in different situations that tell you things. They're, like I said, they're like messengers. So if you have animals coming into your dreams or into your meditations, get a book and see if you can figure out what they're trying to tell you, because maybe there's a message there that's really important and they're trying to convey it to you by coming into your conscious mind in that relaxed state, to hoping that you'll be open enough to capture that message and use it for your growth. So yeah, anytime animals come in contact with you in any sort of form, in dreams or meditations or in real time, it's like one of the reasons I know I have a thing with snake, besides the fact that I had a snake that lived with me for a long time, is they come to me and I've stepped on them or been around them, and I used to work in orchards doing statistical surveys of fruit crop, the projected fruit crop. And I remember one particular time it was early in the morning. I had to be out there as soon as it was light, and I'm walking across the orchard and I stepped on something squishy, and I kept stepping, like I took a couple more steps, and then I realized I had stepped on something. I turned around and looked, and there was a snake, and it was looking at me and I was looking at it, and we sort of did and then we went on our way, but it was an interesting experience I certainly could have been bitten, but I wasn't. And I've never been bitten by a snake. And I've been around lots and lots of rattlesnakes. I've been around all kinds of snakes. The only snake that ever bit me was a little garter snake that had been injured. And it showed up on my front mat, and I took it in to give it a place to rest so it wouldn't be in danger. And when I first picked it up, it bit my finger. But it didn't hurt or anything really. It surprised me more than anything else, but I think it was afraid. But wounded animals will end up on my front doormat, and that they know I'm a healer. They know that I will help, and more often than not, it's snakes, almost always. But birds too. I've had birds show up on my front doorstep. So having said that, yeah, pay attention whenever animals come into meditations or dreams or anything. Look them up, see what their energy is, and it'll be instructive. So also remember, I've got these on Patreon. In the next week on Patreon, I'll be putting up a video for the $15 patrons. Will be getting their second walking the wheel video, and then for the $35 or for the $5 patrons and up, I'll be doing the vlog of the farm, which I do every month. And then I've got a whole bunch of classes that I'm getting ready to upload to Patreon from the apprenticeship courses that I did. I've got them on a flash drive, so I'm going to be putting those up in the next few days. So watch for those. There's a bunch that's going to come in before the 31st, and also on the 31st, or on the week of the 31st. That Monday, we'll talk about the energies of Samhain and how to prepare for Samhain, because that's coming up right away. Okay, well, thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Blessed be.